Hello and welcome. In this video, we walk you through steps to configure VM Series Firewall in active standby in Oracle Cloud. VM Series Firewall in HA communicate over HA1 and HA2 links for config sync and session sync. We will configure secondary IP addresses in the active firewall for the data interfaces. With a failover event, the secondary IP address moves to the new active device and starts receiving the traffic. Let us start by creating a VCN where we will deploy the VM Series firewalls. Select Create VCN. Select the right compartment where you will deploy the resources. Provide a name, a CIDR value, and click Create. Let us now create subnets for the firewalls. Create the first subnet for management IP. Provide a name and CIDR value. The management interface will have public IP. Next, we will create untrust subnet with public IP. Similarly, we will create trust HA subnet. Trust and HA do not need to have public IP. We will now create Internet Gateway for the VCN. Click on Gateways. Scroll down and select Create Internet Gateway. Provide a name and click Create. Now let us create a route table and associate it with the Internet Gateway. We will edit this route table and add a default rule via the target as the newly created Internet Gateway. Associate this route table with the management and untrust subnet so that the interfaces are reachable. Edit the management subnet. From the route table dropdown, select the Internet route table created in the previous step. Repeat the same step for the untrust subnet as well. We do not need to associate Internet route table with trust and HA subnets. Now that we have the basic networking constructs ready, we will launch the VM Series firewalls from Marketplace. From Compute, Instances section, click Create Instance. Provide a name for the VM. Select AD1 as availability domain. From Image and Shape section, click Change Image. Select Marketplace. From Partner Images, filter for Palo Alto. Select VM Series Bundle Image for Pay-Go model. You can select BYOL package from the same place. Select the latest image from the drop-down. Accept the agreement and click on Select Image. Now, click on Change Shape. Select the size of the VM you wish to deploy. For this demo, we will select a 4 vCPU firewall with 20 GB memory. Click Select Shape, click Next, and go to the Networking section. Select the VCN for the firewall deployment. The first interface which the firewall boots up with is the management interface. Hence, select the management we created earlier. You can download the key for SSH access. Click Next. Review the configuration and click on Create. Similarly, we will create the second instance for VM Series Firewall. Place it in the availability domain too. Select the same Pay-Go bundle image and version from Marketplace. Next, select the same shape we selected for VM1 of 4 vCPU and 20 GB memory. From Networking section, select the Demo VCN and Management subnet. Click Create. Once we have the instances ready, we now move on to attaching the NICs to the firewall. Click on the VM1. Go to Networking section. Scroll down to the attached vNIC section. There is only management NIC associated with this VM. Click Create vNIC. Add Untrust NIC. Select the Demo VCN. Select the Untrust subnet and click on Submit. Similarly, we will create Trust, HA1 and HA2 NICs for the VM1. We will now repeat the steps for VM2. Attach all the 4 NICs for Untrust, Trust, HA1 and HA2. In the next step, we will assign secondary IP addresses for Trust and Untrust interfaces on the VM1. Click on the Untrust NIC. Go to IP Administration and click on Assign Secondary Private IP Address. We will need to assign a floating public IP as well to this interface. Select Reserved Public IP. Select Create New Reserved IP Address. For IP address source, select Oracle. Click Assign. The NIC now has a floating private and public IP address. Next, we will assign the floating secondary IP for Trust interface. From IP Administration section, select Assign Secondary Private IP Address. We do not need a public IP for Trust interface. Click on Assign. We will now enable management access for both the firewalls from CLI. Access the console on the management IP. Configure the management user and password and commit the configuration. Log into VM1 console. You need to match the interfaces created in the Oracle console with interfaces on the VM series firewalls. You need to use the same order starting from the second VNIC you created, matching to interface 1/1 on the VM console. Select Layer 3 interface. When adding the IP address, add the secondary IP and mask assigned to the VNICs in the Oracle console for Untrust interface. Next, select interface 1/2. Select Layer 3 and assign the secondary IP and mask assigned to the VNIC for Trust interface in Oracle console. The next 2 interfaces are for HA1 and HA2. The interface type should be HA. Do not add IPs for the HA interfaces as they are assigned at a later time during the HA configuration. Commit the configuration on VM1. Let us now perform the interface configurations in VM2. We do not need to configure VM2 interfaces with IP addresses, because settings will be in sync once the HA configuration is complete. Mark the first 2 interfaces as Layer 3 interfaces and the subsequent 2 interfaces for HA1 and HA2. Commit the changes in VM2. Once the configuration is committed successfully, we will now configure the HA settings. Navigate to High Availability under Device menu. Under Setup, enable HA. Assign a group ID. Assign the peer device's HA1 IP. You can find this from the Oracle console. Click OK. Next, click on Election Settings. Select Preemptive and Device Priority to 100. Now, go to HA Communications tab. Under HA1 Control Link, select the interface 1/3. Assign the primary IP address and mask. Edit the HA2 data link, select the interface 1/4. Assign the IP address and mask. Select Transport as UDP. Click OK. HA configuration on VM1 is now complete. We can commit the changes. We will repeat the same steps for VM2. Under High Availability, Setup, enable HA. Assign the same group ID of VM1. Assign the peer HA1 IP. Under Election Settings, select Preemptive and set Device Priority. Under HA Communication section, add the IP and port details of HA1 and HA2. Make sure to select Transport as UDP. Commit the changes on VM2. For the HA interfaces to talk and exchange information, Make sure the security list associated with the subnet, where the HA interfaces reside, have the proper ports opened. Another important configuration. Make sure to check Skip Source Destination Check for data interfaces untrust and trust in both VM1 and VM2. You can edit the VNIC and make this change if not already done. From VM1, notice that the state of the device is active. The peer device is passive. Both HA1 and HA2 links are green. Going to the VM2 console, this is in passive state, and the peer device is active, and here as well we notice the state of HA links as green. Select Sync to Peer. Once the sync completes, repeat the same from the other VM console as well. Now the status of the devices show as synchronized. From VM1 console, which is active peer, you will notice the state of all the 4 interfaces showing as green. In VM2, the data interfaces are down and HA links are green. With switchover, the data interfaces become active. The next step is to configure OCI to work in conjunction with the VM series firewalls to move the virtual IP from one VM to the other with switchover. VM series interacts with Oracle APIs and uses instance principals to move the virtual IP. The PIAs use the management interface to make call the API. First, you need to create a dynamic group which contains the 2 VMs in the cluster. Create a dynamic group and add the OCIDs of the 2 VMs. Click on Add Rule and Create. Next, create a policy to allow the dynamic group to move the virtual IP from one VM to the other. Under Identity and Security, Policy page, select Create Policy. Provide name and description. Select Manual Editor for Policy Builder. Under Policy Statements, type the statements shown, 1 per statement. After adding the 3 statements, click Create. For our tests, we will test with the secondary IP. Hence, from active peer, we need to enable the management profile on untrust interface. We will enable it for ICMP. As a last step, assign zones to the data interfaces. Now we will add a route. From Virtual Router, click on Add Route and add the Ethernet 1/1 interface. From the Static Route section, add a route entry for a default route. Add primary IP address of the untrust interface. We will configure and allow all policy for this demo. Commit the changes. At this point, we are ready to test HA. We notice that VM2 does not have any secondary IP. We will execute ping to the secondary public IP address of the VM1. The ping is successful. From Monitor section, the logs appear in the VM1 console. At this point, from Device tab, suspend the active peer. We notice that the traffic stops. From the Oracle console, we also notice that the secondary IP address now moves to the new active device. From the CLI, the ping traffic gets initiated again and traffic logs starts to appear in the new active VM. Going to the dashboard, the state of the device is active and the peer status shows as suspended. This brings us to the end of this demo. Please do visit our website to know more about our solutions. Thank you.